This is propaganda live.
I only suggest how to think and how to vote.
What a fantastic and special show it is.
Russell Brand is a famous rapist.
This is just from memory. You can just go, hold on, but they said that. I became a Christian, preempting that charges would appear from deep history. I went to one white party. What? What are you talking about? I'm a migrant right now in the United States. In fact, I would call myself an exile, a political exile. Lying, probably true. Inevitably, I lie sometimes. I feel that Christ may have had a better vision. I'm the main problem. I'm the main problem. Let's go full screen on Russell.
This is On Brand, a podcast where we discuss the ideas and antics of one Russell Brand. I'm Al Worth, and every show I go through an episode of Stay Free with Russell Brand in order to dissect and debunk it only. This week, we will not be engaging with an episode of Stay Free. Partly because lately it's been really goddamn boring. Russell has been ill, possibly with the gastrointestinal disease that's currently running rampant in the US. And other than that, he's just been interviewing jackasses trying to sell spurious products to his audience. It has been painfully dull. And he's not even been keeping up with current events either. So instead, we will be taking a ride through Russell's new book, How to Become a Christian in 7 Days, * may take 50 years of sin and serious fuck-ups to get started. Now, this was going to be Patreon exclusive, but as I got going with it, I realized I wanted, the full audience to get a taste of this. All of you folks need to have a little bit of a taste of this because, and I know it may come as a shock to everyone, this book is very bad. And I say that coming off the back of the bookie wook. Not only is it very bad, but business genius that he is, Russell has given the audio version of the book away for free. So we get to hear all of it directly from him in his own words. And believe me, it is so very noticeably his own words. But before we get there, if anyone wants to support the show financially by becoming an Awakening Wonder, head to patreon.com/onbrand and sign up and you will have my eternal gratitude as well as being able to access additional content and a completely ad-free version of this show. And if you're not a patron for whatever reason, please don't forget to follow the show wherever you're getting it and leave me a nice review if you can, because that stuff does genuinely help. Oh, and before we get to the book, there is one clip that's been doing the rounds on social media, and several people have asked for my opinion on it. So here's the clip.
Drink pee and stay free. Madonna was in the public eye for saying that she was drinking urine, but now you're saying top scientists are claiming that just one... Yeah, I hope you're pulling up research. I hope you're pulling up your research before I even take one sip of this stuff.
Yeah, I will, exactly.
Tell me the research, Jonathan.
How many exosomes? Ready? 10 to the power of 8. This is in a daily urine sample, right? So
that is a lot of exosomes.
This is all on grok, right? Okay, so, and then notice where are the exosomes coming from if you're getting amniotic fluid. Amniotic fluid is 90% urine, 10% fetal lung fluid. Then so how many are there? And it's like, okay, well, around 10 to the power of 10 or 10 to the power of 13, tens of billions to trillions per day, right?
Probably. I don't know what exosomes are.
They're extracellular vesicles that if you get stem cell injections, okay, what happens is the stem cells die within about a week of the injection and they form exosomes. So it's really the exosomes that are doing all the work that you understand about stem cells. And they are signaling molecules, they're growth factors like vascular endothelial growth factor. It took me a couple of months to work this out. And here's the studies. This was from NIH.
Yours? Are you drinking yours?
I will.
Well, you're going to get some now. He's going to get it now. The lad's going to get it now. That's just an average Australian. They're all like that. The whole country, every one of them. Drink pee and stay free. Oh, mate, it's not very nice. It's not very nice.
You think that one was bad? This one, I don't drink this normally.
I didn't enjoy that. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it, Jonathan.
I've heard pineapple juice helps, or maybe that's something else. So that was two grown men drinking their own urine. It's a clip from about a month ago. Russell Brand and a health grifter by the name of Jonathan Otto having an otherwise very boring conversation and casually drinking their own urine. What else is there to say? I guess the main thing that I never suspected I'd have to utter on this show is, if someone is ever trying to convince you to drink your own piss, don't trust that person, let alone pay them for the privilege. Now, if you're paying to drink someone else's piss, that's a different scenario, but either way, I can guarantee you there are no health benefits for doing so. That is demonstrably clear. Oh boy. Anywho, let's engage with the terrible book, and we'll start at the very beginning, which opens with several quotes from other luminaries.
The existence of God is not subjective. He either exists or he doesn't. It's not a matter of opinion. You can have your own opinions, but you can't have your own facts. Ricky Gervais, comedian. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Ephesians 6:12. If God can create everything in 7 days, you can create a new life with him in 7 days.
No attribution for that one, apparently. And I feel like that biblical quote could have done with some context, but okay. Otherwise, we're going to quote Ricky Gervais as the opening to this book. A man who is famously atheist. He's a real sack of shit also, but yeah, famous atheist, and the point he was making was in support of atheism, and I do always find it fun when, people flip these arguments on their head, like, well, either he is or he is, God must exist then, therefore, and you're like, alright, sure, buddy. So the book itself has some quotes, and then at the beginning of each chapter there are more quotes, because he likes to do that. I think he thinks it gives the impression that he's well read. That's not what I take from it.
Introduction. I don't even understand the connection with died for your sins. He died for your sin? Or how does one affect the other? I hit myself in the foot with a shovel for your mortgage? Doug Stanhope, comedian.
Okay, not funny. Sorry, I just realized that I am drinking something on camera here that looks suspiciously the same color as what Russell and Jonathan Otto were just drinking. I assure you, this is an energy drink. It's not it's nothing human flavored. Okay, let's well, I don't think anyway. Let's run with that.
When you were dead in your sins and in the uncircumcision of your flesh, God made you alive with Christ. He forgave us all our sins, having cancelled the charge of our legal indebtedness which stood against us and condemned us. He has taken it away, nailing it to the cross. Colossians 2:13-16.
It's a very boring book. Oh, and if anyone's wondering why I've got the guns out today, it's because the UK is in the midst of yet another heat wave. It seems the sun has appeared to punish the British for all of our colonial mishaps.
In the Bible, the number 7 means complete, and days often means distinct temporal movement, as in Genesis's God made the world in 7 days. This cannot be intended to mean in 7 24-hour periods, as of course those periods are physically determined by the Earth's rotation on its axis and the relationship between its surface and the light source around which it orbits. See, this book has already paid for itself in cosmological bullion. Now I know what a day is. The book you'll ultimately have to read is the Bible. It contains the secrets of the universe and makes sense of everything, as much as things can ever really be made sense of. I mean, you could spend forever and a day quibbling about the absence of diplodocuses, should that be diplodoci, in Genesis, or the lack of descriptions of supernovas in Leviticus, but it won't help you a jot when it comes to the more pressing problem of nagging futility at the core of your being. The Bible is the book you must read to address that. If it comes to a choice between the Bible and this humble tome, then stop reading and chuck this out the nearest window or into a window if you're outside, for the Bible is all about Jesus Christ, and my job is to use my experience to lead you to him.
How does everyone feel about being led somewhere by Russell Brand? Like, if you were out and about somewhere and Russell Brand came up to you and was like, hey, can I lead you somewhere? Tell me, what does that provoke internally? Because for me, it's not great. Boy, howdy. I will say that there is a good piece of advice there in throwing this book away. That is probably the best thing we're going to get throughout the duration of this. Also, the idea that that Genesis is that days exists outside of time, the concept of days. It was written by humans. The book was written by humans, and thus a human definition would make sense. Because also, by the kind of biblical sense of things, we are God's creations and therefore are meant to write it that way. Surely. And also, isn't it supposed to be, like, impressive, that he did it all so quickly? I thought that was a part of it, rather than just being like, hey, days is just, figurative. it actually took him fucking forever. But we say it in 7 days because it's more poetic. No, I think it was seven 24-hour days, because also, God would have known how long a day was going to be because he was the one that made them, right? He decided that's how long it was going to be. He probably thought of that in advance and thought, you know what? I'm going to do all this in 7 days. And that's going to be a whole thing. I'm like, already, I'm annoyed. I'm just like, this is unnecessary bullshit.
And I'll tell you now that if this doesn't make sense to you, welcome. We are in this boat, in this storm, together, awaiting him.
Don't put me in a boat.
This does not make sense in a conventional way, and I'm not here to demystify Christ. If anything, we must remystify him. Amidst the infinite, which is where even competing and elsewise opposed epistemologies place us, even universal laws are little more than local customs. When we say the Earth goes around the sun, which most people, but not all, see as the basis of our galactic reality within infinity, total unboundedness, this is about as relevant as saying, in my house we eat Chinese food on Fridays. It may be true, but in a reality with no observable end, and only a speculative beginning, it is meaningless.
So, universal laws are meaningless. I think that's what he was getting at. Universal laws are meaningless. Shocking that the first big takeaway from this guy, from the Bible, is, hey, laws don't matter. I wonder how he could have got there. Oh.
Negentropic is the word used for the temporary and spatial suspension of entropy, itself the observable tendency of the molecules that make up matter to move apart. This is often used to infer that we inhabit a chaotic reality, that there is no point to life, no point to anything, that nature contains itself and has no external inceptor, no creator. But that position requires faith too.
Oh,
as they say, we can't know what happened the Tuesday before the Big Bang. We can't know why we live in a localized system that seems to temporarily favor order, weather and climate systems, biology, gravity, and hundreds of other necessary rules that give rise to life in opposition to and at odds with the wider assumption of meaningless, endless expansion.
I mean, none of that's... I don't know, none of what he described sounds like order to me. You can't describe gravity as order. That's just a law of physics. Like, that's just a thing. So same as all of the life on the Earth. A lot of it's very fucking chaotic. Also, just because there is no kind of creator, right? If you believe, as I do, that none of this was kind of designed by anyone, that doesn't mean it's meaningless. That doesn't mean we can't find meaning within our lives, Like, none of this is meaningless. Just because it wasn't written in a fucking book, hundreds of years ago. Like, I'm already exhausted. We've got so much of this to go, and I'm already exhausted. This is gonna be a Russell-heavy episode. I'm not gonna lie. There is gonna be a lot of Russell just saying what he thinks, but therein lies the value, I promise, right? Because so often in this show. Russell dances around points and doesn't really kind of get to the crux of just saying what he actually fucking believes. And so there are several things he says in this book that I've been saying he's saying for years, but he's never said it in quite such a succinct way. And so we get to like properly nail him down and understand his actual positions on things here. So it is worth it, but by God, I will not lie, there is a lot of Russell.
Does this make you feel that no matter what you do or say or get or lose, human existence, life, is meaningless without God?
No.
Somehow, I've always known this, and since coming to him, since my coming to period, I can handle it.
Careful.
In this book, I will offer you my humble testimony, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And through my richly blessed experience in recovery, the process of getting clean and sober through 12-step programs, I have attempted to address, combine, and describe a profound, involuntary, and supernatural change in my state, coming to Christ, with a reliable and repeatable technique for creating the precondition and circumstance for such a change. The 12-step system.
Yeah. It's as though within the last couple of years, Russell has kind of finally caught on the 12 steps. You know, while they often try not to ascribe a specific deity to it, that's generally the angle. That's kind of that's the foundation of it anyway. Is to kind of drive people towards religiosity, and I'm not gonna shit on 12-step programs in general. Any port in a storm, whatever helps you get there. And some of them are vastly different to others. It's a wide array of programs out there that can vary differently depending on where they are and how they're being run. Some of them are aggressively Christian, and others are just not. But in terms of the foundational intent, yeah, that's kind of where we're going. And yeah, it's not surprising that Russell's into that. He wrote his own version of the 12 steps, taking the God bits out, ironically. So yeah, and we'll actually get into a bit of the foundational origins of the 12-step program in this little segment here.
You see, for me, it didn't take 7 days or 50 years. It took an instant that he provided. He that is beyond space, time, and matter, for he created them all. My testimony then is intercut with exercises, prayers, and questions based on my 12-step experience, which, while unique, is broadly repeatable in the hope that my conversion, which was theophanic, I just learned this word myself, don't be embarrassed, it means God came to me, and therefore only detectable in silhouette. Pederally, I've known this one a little longer, it means written in stone, and it is only available as an adverb now because I've made it one. Trace in the only form available, language.
What? Did anyone manage to keep the thread there? Like, it's bad enough when a writer gets in their own way, but to then do the same thing out loud, like without being able to clearly delineate where the sentence is going, that's fucking impressive levels of incompetence. That is like just such a It's just so kind of desperate to impress the reader or listener in this case, you know? It's just kind of sad. Boy.
Whether written or spoken, the horror of botched translation that only the polylinguist knows is as nothing compared to the ascending bends that clench and wring the depressurizing lobes when attempting to convert the word of God to the language of man. So, the word was made flesh.
Okay. Fine. I guess.
My previous book, Recovery, contained a personal account, diagnosis, and guide to using a, forgive the word, tool that I can claim no credit for creating. In a way,
Made
getting off
money off
drugs
it, though.
is like becoming Christian. Both procedures require a type of apostasy, a rejection of one's prior faith. The faith that the best thing one can do to live in this world is to take drugs, to numb, negate, and defer the weary, dreary awe of this thrilling, grilling, chilling, crushing life.
Does he think that's everyone's faith? Because statistically, that's not everyone's faith. I mean, if you're counting alcohol, then maybe, especially in this country. But also, there's plenty of wine drinking and shit in the Bible itself. So, you know. Hey, I think there's an ice cream van in my house. God, that's exciting. Just a little bit of youthful joy in amidst this fucking nonsense.
The 12 steps masterly lead us out of that false belief system. This is how they sum up step 1. We admitted we were powerless over drugs, alcohol, whatever, and our lives had become unmanageable. Those geniuses, of course, said our rather than your to soften the jab we feel when diagnosed so harshly as weak, powerless, and out of control, unmanageable. In recovery, I abbreviated, perhaps at some cost and no doubt with undue profanity, this elegantly composed piece of American folk prose to admit you're fucked. I know. You're welcome. It's easy to do that eventually when you're a heroin addict or a drunk. In this book, How to Become a Christian in 7 Days, the tool I'm directing you to is Jesus. The apostasy I'm suggesting you undertake, having just undertaken it myself, is from the world. The world. You are not joining a religion, you are leaving one. We are not coming to faith, we are coming home. Having cringed at my own blasphemy when attempting to interpret the 12 steps, I've shown myself a hopeless literary recidivist by committing the only heresy that could be more grievous. I'm attempting to reinterpret the Bible. All Christians do that. It's called testimony. Phew, for a minute I thought I was an out-of-control egomaniac trying to rewrite the Bible and charge you for the privilege.
I mean, you did do that with the 12 steps, so I wouldn't put it past you. But also, reinterpret the Bible? I don't think that's part of the gig. I interpret the Bible, sure. But like, I don't know. There is only so much acceptable deviation within that. Oh, good God. And yeah, this whole idea that, I don't know, to him becoming Christian is a rejection of the world. And I'm like, this is like Christianity at large is, one of the biggest religions in the world. There's billions of Christians in the world. and like, the British system of government is designed with Christianity, intertwined with it. Right? I mean, there was the entire Holy Roman Empire. That was a thing. Yeah. Like, the US government, while it's not supposed to, does explicitly have Christianity intertwined throughout it. It's not supposed to, but it does. Like, it's just so funny to me that this great rebellious act that he's claiming he's undertaking, this great coming home, happens to be the same home that, basically everyone who's ever been in power in the United States and the United Kingdom also happens to, be at. And I'm like, all right. I guess this is rebellious now.
I will show you how I began to see my whole reality as a type of drug and Jesus Christ as the truth, the life, and the way. We are dealing with the supernatural, which is by definition difficult to comprehend. Someone kindly assisting me with the writing of this book suggested that my moment of epiphany or theophany might be compared to the moment the great chef and excellent writer Anthony Bourdain knew that he loved food. Bourdain appropriately described this sensual experience using his senses, so his enjoyment of his cherry-popping oyster becomes something like the lolloping vaginal slurp and sluice of briny, unclammed and shucked oyster juice, maybe even describing the pinch of his new shoes as he neck-backed his gullet run or what the wallpaper was like in the restaurant. That's not literally what he wrote. That's me doing my best to write centrally to show I can do it when it comes to mouth munchy din-dins, a skill, but not the skill required here.
And stop it! Stop doing that! That was terrible! Oh, sensually? Vaginal brine? Is this? Oh, God. You would think, after however many people he's claimed, to have slept with, that sensual talk would come a bit more naturally to him. As it is, that was just fucking disgusting. Also, whoever gave the advice that Russell coming to God is comparable to Anthony Bourdain realizing he loved food, terrible advice. Terrible advice, terrible comparison, borderline blasphemous. But okay.
Interfacing with the supernatural is not like a chef describing how they became a chef because eating food made them feel nice, even though Anthony Bourdain, God rest his suicided soul, does as good a job of that as any man could. The supernatural is beyond words and beyond comprehension. Even James Joyce or Lewis Carroll in full Jabberwocky mode would struggle to capture the extrasensory onomatopoeia required to weave and unweave threads as fine as the shadow of smoke on a pane of light cast by a candle on a Sunday couch. And Joyce and Carroll are, alas, alack, no longer available. But we do have St. Paul. St. Paul says, "It may be glimpsed as if through a glass, darkly." What Paul is conjuring is what one might encounter if, when looking in a mirror, one began to sense that what was looking back was breaching, without piercing, a barely detectable membrane within, without, reflected, refracted, opaque and perfect. Whose eyes do you suppose they are looking back at you? Could this be Christ?
I mean, could be any number of things, really, if that's what we're going with. Like, that whole thing to me is just incredibly, deliberately vague. Also, much like James Joyce and Lewis Carroll, St. Paul is also dead. So I don't know why he's separate from the other two, but there we go. Oh, this is bad.
We do not have an instrument to discern the flavour of this new light, the light by which all other light is seen. Who is looking back at you from that mirror, St. Paul asks us.
Your imaginary friend.
Elsewhere he is clear. Indeed, it is Christ. You cannot think of yourself here. You cannot reason your way here. Although Jesus is logos, a supreme logical principle, the logic applied is not human, not fallen human at least. To see him clearly, we must bear his image once more. To do this, we cannot be in sin. To do this, we must surrender. Then we will know the peace which passeth all understanding, or the peace that transcends reason. So, by God's grace and the considerable work of those who have gone before, I have 1. Put the essence of the 12 steps into a 7-day program. 2. Told my story of coming to Jesus. 3. Sorted and sourced some exercises and questions, a bit like the artist's way, which will give my testimony a structure and shape that you can follow and implement.
Okay, so he's interjected a little bit of autobiography in there, but otherwise he has again rehashed the 12 steps in order to try and make money out of it. Or in this case, give the audio version away for free. And has included blank pages in his book. So that people can use it like the artist's way. I'm sure this will sell just as well. Jesus fucking Christ. And it's only, like, even with the blank spaces, it's like, what, 190 pages? 100, like, it's not a long book. It is brief. Fucking hell.
When famous, I was an inadvertent priest and evangelist in the sick church of our culture and its hedonistic creed. Have sex, be famous, worship yourself. What a silly boy. Maybe you are still cloistered and devoted to the culture's sick liturgy of self. You already know that it will never work. But do you know there is a way out? I'm sharing it with you because that's all there is for me now. And if one as sick, wretched, and broken as I can be rescued by him, I know you can be too. Here is my best attempt at showing you how to become a Christian in 7 days.
Oh, he did it. He did the thing. He said the title in the book. Oh, we love it when that happens, don't we?
You feel it too. The world is changing fast, too fast, and people are waking up with the start. Was it the pandemic? Partly. The death of Charlie Kirk? Somewhat. Renewed hostility in the Middle East? Is it technology? Minneapolis? The dreadful and bilious sense that every single bloody event causes conflict and conflagration? Even Bad Bunny dancing in a hedge at the Super Bowl brings a whole hollow culture to the brink. As Andrew Lawrence says, the reason there is no harmony is because there is no melody. Whether you are an atheist, a Muslim, or a Jew, you know that we are on the edge of a great revival, and you likely know there isn't much time.
Well, that sounds scary. Okay, everything's bad, the world is terrible, but we're not going to analyze why the world is terrible in any sense other than, hey, it's because people aren't Christian. Like, that's what we're getting. Like, we're going to bring up the specific example of fucking right-wing bigots getting upset over the fact that Bad Bunny performed. We're going to bring that up and be like, hey, it's because not enough people are with Christ, right? Despite all of the people complaining on the right wing being, rabid Christians, for the most part, by the way. No. So who needs to become Christian in order for that problem to be solved? Because I feel like you could make everyone in that situation even the same denomination of Christian, and the same problem would be there, that they're all just a bunch of fucking racists. Like, oh, and you can tell me that racism is not very Christian, and in the Jesus sense, I would agree with you. In the Old Testament sense, not so much. The good book is handy when these people can use it to their own ends, eh? Yeah. Fuck this. This is a deeply shallow reading of just everything already.
This is the quickening, the reckoning, the awakening. Maybe even the second coming is at hand. And the reason you're reading this book is because you know we need to be reborn.
That's not why I'm reading.
Your life is broken, and you are broken. Now, the last thing I wanted to be is a Christian. I've met Christians, and I've seen them on the television. To me, it seems they're either inept, sexless, and drab, or so far the other way, intense, swivel-eyed, and that even if they don't have halitosis, it sort of seems like they must. I can smell it through the screen.
You're really selling it. A consistent theme of this will be the hey, you're a piece of shit. God, your life is terrible, isn't it? Isn't everything so difficult? Like, it's such an obvious, self-help kind of tactic, kind of sales tactic. Like, hey, everything fucking sucks. That's why you need to get with God, right? It's and it's so incredibly transparent. And on top of that, Russell also, classic narcissist that he is going to be making the assumption that everyone feels the same way about life that he does. And I have expressed before that Russell has led a particularly unique existence, and that remains true. And thus, virtually no one has the perspective on life that he does.
The American ones spend too much time on their hair, and the English ones not enough. They all seem like they're trying to tell you or sell you something. The American ones keep getting caught with their pants down, and the English ones seem like they've got nothing going on in their pants. The American ones seem like they're using the Bible as a weapon, a leather-bound baton of bigotry, and the English ones are so weak, grey, probably gay, bad teeth, tedious, that, well, hell don't seem so bad.
Again, really selling it. There was that British priest a few years ago that was having, like, ketamine-fueled orgies. So, they're not all sexless peons, I'll say that.
I mean, do you remember fucking songs of praise. If you're American, please allow me to describe this televisual anti-propaganda and tell you plain that if you were like people across Iraq right now, mysteriously encountering Christ in dreams because the culture there tries to hide him, songs of praise would spin you 180 degrees in the opposite direction. They made the...
Sorry. I hadn't paid attention to that little bit previously when I listened to this. Oh, that's not their culture over there tries to hide Christ, those fucking Muslims. Like, Jesus Christ. All right. So people are seeing him in dreams now. Oh, also, yeah, this is entirely unjustified shitting on songs of praise.
The Son of God as appealing as a cat tongue enema. Let me unpack it. Every Sunday evening, as dreadful and inevitable as the tap of a ghoulish stepdad upon your bedroom door, this Mardi Gras of greyness would unfurl. This week, we're in Rochester, Kent, at St. Michael's Cathedral, and by the end of this half hour, we aim to convince you that the creator of the universe coming to Earth as a baby and being nailed to a cross to absolve your personal shame is as interesting as filling in a spreadsheet of household expenses for a neighbour you dislike.
I mean, look, for those who don't know what Songs of Praise is, it's basically a show that's on I think it's still airing, that's on Sundays. It's been on since fucking television was invented. And basically a film crew will go to one of the many old churches or cathedrals that we have and film a choir or several performing hymns and shit. That's pretty much it. That's the program. It's relatively inoffensive and it's fine. Like, I'm not going to sit down and watch it, but, you know, there are some nice performances from some well-intentioned people in some cool old buildings. Like, even if you take the religiosity out of it, like, it's harmless. It's you know, there's nothing objectively wrong with it. You know, fine. Like, and like, sure, it's not sexy and appealing, you know, in that kind of way, in the kind of way that Russell would like. Because, let's be honest, with Russell's, let's call it taste, he wants things to be like fucking mega church level. He wants a fucking show. And Songs of Praise is not that. It's a lot of old people singing songs, you know, which, again, is fine. It's not designed for the youth, you know, to enjoy particularly. And I will bet money that he has not watched it in, you know, 40 years or whatever. Because it's also, like, still a pretty big deal. I was at Chester Cathedral, I don't know, 2020, 2021, something like that. And Songs of Praise happened to be there on the day that I wanted to have a mooch around the cathedral and just have a little poke around. It's quite a nice one. And everyone was going ape shit, you know, full film crew, crowds of people, you know, milling about, you know, it's a whole thing. So, I don't know, clearly there's some appeal to it that evidently he is missing.
I also heard all about Jesus at school, how kind he was and loving, and that he was the Son of God, and the reason we have Easter, Christmas, and come to that, secular humanitarianism. And I must say I was unable to separate the holy water from the bathwater. So I quickly learned not to trust anyone or anything based on reliable evidence and experience. You can't trust school, you can't trust TV, you can't really even trust family. In fact, the first part of being Christian came to me for free. Reject the world. Reject its systems. Reject its ways, its patterns. I was shown that the world, its culture, and all its systems are bullshit. A trick, a distraction, a scam. It is the counterfeit world of the evil one, though I wouldn't have framed it that way then. That took time. I dedicated myself to getting a better deck chair on the Titanic instead of what I should have done. Investigate who funded the Titanic and whether they actually ever intended for it to reach New York. Certainly, some very powerful interests benefited from its unsinkable sinking. That happens a lot with crises, I've noticed. What is a crisis for us is a boon time for the world's most powerful elites.
Okay, we're on to, we're on to Titanic conspiracy theories now, it seems. He's non-specific. I'm not getting into Titanic conspiracy theories, though I'm sure there are plenty. We are not going down that fucking road right now. Ludicrous. A tragedy can never be just a tragedy with these people. It just can't. It has to be some fascinating story, of fucking good and evil. Otherwise, like, as I said before, the systems of the world, a great many of them, are based around Christianity. Like, reject the world, my fucking ass, honestly. What an absurd notion.
I wonder what patterns that dichotomy might generate. They, we'll get into they later, primarily want to dim, diminish, vanquish, or at least redirect your spirit, your personal power. Consider that within you, did you know, there is a portion of the divine shooting, roaming, spreading, and searching, and the function of the world is to entice, enchant, wrap, and shellac it into a new and choking womb enclosed in self, trapped on an inward ricochet of solipsistic inner circuitry caroming endlessly in here, with constant wants and fears. The famed and ubiquitous inner voice, who is this inner tormentor? The relentless monologue of intermittent loathing and megalomania. I'm fantastic. I'm awful. I'm the piece of shit around which the world revolves. How did it get in there? Is it even possible to live another way? I am broken. Are you broken?
So again, this is the sales pitch. Worth bearing in mind what Russell was describing there. He was diagnosed with bipolar disorder as an adult. So that's what I would say that was. Less the voice of God, more a mental illness. As so often tends to be the case.
If you're already Christian, you may marvel at how slow I've been to get to the party, but at least I'm here now and I've bought a bottle. If you're one of the many people who frequently tell me that they've been praying for me, thank you and God bless you. It worked. Now that I'm a Christian, it still shocks me. I know that I'm no better than you in the eyes of the one who matters. And I'm no worse than you. He has no favorites, and he would have come to earth and died on the cross just as easily and readily if you or I, makes no difference to him, had been the only person in the world. The creator of the simulation came and entered the simulation to show us how to survive, how to actually be in the simulation.
Cool. We're in the Matrix, everybody. Nice. And yeah, like, he's certainly no better than the rest of us. Good. I don't think he actually accepts that internally, but yes, he is no better than us. As for whether he's worse than the rest of us, I will say most people don't have looming sexual assault charges against them. That's an indicator. And even without that, the stories that are not, being played out in court very shortly also don't speak very highly of him. In fact, his own book, My Bookie Wook, his Bookie Wook, does not speak very highly of him, and that's his own fucking words. I'd say he's worse than most people. Look at his current day job. He's dreadful. But oh no, the Lord has no favorites.
In the Bible, we see how our necessary free will, for without it, what would be the point in creation, led to sin. We, in the story of Adam and Eve, chose to be disobedient. We used our free will to activate self-will. Sin is not the act, it's the spiritual state that precedes the act. That is why Christ says, if you look lustfully upon a woman, you have committed adultery. The supreme level of reality is not, as we assume, the material, the plane of action, but the spiritual plane of the ineffable, to us, spirit.
This is a man who, to this day, rails against the idea that thought crime will ever be a thing. Meanwhile, here he is telling me that thought crime is real. and that we should all pay severe attention to it. Because If you lust after another woman, you might as well have fucked her. Apparently, and that's the actual sin itself. You know, and again, from a legal standpoint, very much not the case. Very much not the case. There is a big difference between wanting to do the thing and having the motive to do the thing, and then actually doing the thing. Right? It's mens rea and actus rea in the legal parlance, and they are related but distinct for a fucking reason. Religious thought crime. Let's go.
Throughout the Old Testament, God's chosen people are disobedient. They ignore, denigrate, and annoy God's prophets and leaders until he has to reset reality himself, not with a punitive flood, but through redeeming blood. He himself must, through his Son, achieve reconciliation with us, his supreme creation. To stop humans saying, we can't do this, it's too hard, he incarnated, brought into matter and flesh the holy frequency that meant less brokerage, more direct access than ever was viable through his atoning sacrifice on the cross.
I mean, again, he did do the flood, and also, I mean, I do have a general problem with the whole sacrificed himself on the cross deal. Because he came back a few days later. You know, he had a rough weekend. And also is God. You know, and therefore cannot die. So, what was the sacrifice exactly? I just, look, it's my own personal stuff. It's fine. I don't expect everyone to agree with my perspective on that, but yeah, I don't get it.
Now we live in a super state of potentiality where we can either join him by collapsing our self-will as Christ did, and as Mary to a lesser degree did, or we can, like Eve and Adam, reactivate our particular self-will. We still have a choice. But it's easier than it used to be, and it's open to all of us. When you read the Bible, you will see that this applies to you, that the Bible is the voice of God and has infinite application. You will see music, geometry, and math threaded throughout the word. Indeed, the very existence of music, geometry, and math tells us that there is absolute meaning beyond subjectivity.
The existence of geometry and maths tells him that there is absolute meaning beyond subject. Okay, I guess. I mean, you know, like none of it's definitively provable in any way. It's just like, hey, I'm just jamming these two things together because that's what makes the most sense to me in my head. And fine, but like. Also, I will point out the very fact that he is saying math there instead of maths. A guy who still references fucking 70s sitcoms in daily conversation. You know, 70s British sitcoms in daily conversation. Can't say the word maths? Which is how we say it over here, because the full word is mathematics. Right? It's not mathematic, it's mathematics. And so the abbreviation of that would be maths. And it's fine, Americans, North Americans. I'm not going to hold it against you. It's the way you were raised, much like aluminum and nuclear. It's aluminium and nuclear, for the record. But Russell choosing to say math is very indicative that his audience, again, he's straight shooting this at Americans. Which, you know, through Tucker Carlson's press makes sense, because also the shipping on that fucking, you know, 25 quid book, the shipping on that would have been an extra £30 or something for it to come over here. So, you know, yay for the free audiobook, I guess. I digress, anyway.
These are the visible products of the embedded code, a code that we are not equipped to fully know because we are not God. but we can be co-heirs with his son. Our hardware is limited. His software is not.
What? Our hardware is limited, his software is not. Okay, I feel like you don't know enough about technology to be able to make a metaphor out of it, you know? Like I don't think. Again, I feel like we're getting into Matrix territory, but he doesn't quite know how to land that plane. Like there are definitely technological metaphors that you could make, but I don't see that one being it.
When you only know your own pain and pleasure, in the end you feel like this. The edges are closing in. You can feel it everywhere. Now I'm a little bit dumb. I'm a fast thinker, but a slow learner. I need big, clear, vivid lessons to absorb even the most basic facts. But like you, I was made for worship, and I never had a problem with that. Sometimes the love courses through me so quickly and so thickly that I feel like I could die. Man, I loved women. Man, I loved drugs. Man, I thought I knew a whole lot about everything. I thought I knew what was in the Bible based on a few trips to drab churches and a one-eye-open squint at daytime Charlton Heston movies. I did not consider Christianity to be a place where I might encounter the mystery of my emptiness, the mystery of my loss, the mystery of precipitous awe, the gurgling and visceral need in me for comfort and love. No, not till 16 and LSD and UFOs and Alex Jones did those queer inklings find a fuzzy and impermanent home.
Again, he was in his 20s long before, before he listened to Alex Jones, because they are only a year apart in age. I have to keep saying that. And I acknowledge I'm very sure that Russell does not engage with this show. But just in case, Russell, you're a year younger than Alex Jones. You were not listening to him at the age of 16 because he was 17 and did not start broadcasting anything until he was 22. Jesus Christ. Anyway, yeah, it's all broken. Everything's broken. Everything's terrible. Everything's terrible and broken. That's why, yeah, we'll get to the solution.
Not till Jung's Red Book and Siddhartha or Autobiography of a Yogi did I begin to see that, yes, indeed, there is more to this than me and what I want and don't want. Not till I was cracked and smacked, then uncracked and unsmacked and therapized, and had been through Sartre and sutras and Nietzsche and sex creatures, until I turned my childhood shame into adult fame, only for that fame to metastasize once more into shame. Only when I saw the false idols of sex and fame like two serpents, like two coiled helices, turn with Murdoch's venom in foul and Faustian disgrace. Oh, so you want to be famous, do you, and have lots of sex? How about being portrayed as the most famous rapist in the world? Ah, 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 ah.
I've heard worse evil laughs. The charges, the investigation into Russell, which came, 2023, long before the charges, was what? Let's say, I don't know, what, 17 years? 17 years after he got famous, roughly. It depends when you put it exactly. If we're talking movie Russell, then, bit less. But, yeah, it's not like those things happened all at once. It's not like, oh, you get famous and then all of a sudden everyone thinks you're a rapist. Like, no, those were a long way apart. With a long storied history of various accusations. Yeah. Again, he's trying to make it seem like his experience is one that is in any way ubiquitous, and it's just not. Even amongst the tiny amount of people that reach the degree of fame that he has, very few would have anything comparable. to what he is currently experiencing. And for anyone watching the video, Kaylee, my cat, is joining us because she loves this book, evidently.
And as the idol cracked open, as the serpent burst forth, as my son's chest was carved open, as my wife's breast milk bloomed as we left the anesthesiologist's room, as the dog leash loomed, a casual and accessible noose flung across the beam in the garage, as the paparazzi gathered like locusts at the end of the lane amidst the offers of late-term abortion and fake accusation, and the faces of long-time friends melted into blank and empty stares as the snares snapped shut. In the twisting of the gut, the portcullis fell, and the long-awaited dread arrived as the final hope that this world could ever deliver died. There he was.
I feel like I've accidentally dropped a tab of acid and have ended up at one of the world's worst slam poetry events. I feel like that's what's just happened. And so when I say this is so very obviously written by Russell, yeah, you can feel it, can't you? As it is, the only thing from that little segment there, as like, yeah, he's made allusions to him feeling suicidal and whatnot before. However, around the time when he did his very first interview with Tucker Carlson after all of the allegations, when he first kind of spoke to someone publicly, he spoke to Tucker Carlson, I think it was in the January of 2024. He had kind of been like, hey, all of these allegations came at the same time my child was in surgery and all of this. And I think he's just kind of fucked himself on the timeline there, in terms of the appearance. I'm very curious to, like, in the grand scheme, it doesn't matter that much. It's just something that bothers me. But I'm curious to know the actual birth date of his youngest child, because I'm like, I think there was much more time between A and B happening than he is letting on.
At first, not even our Lord. At first, it was his cross. While walking the dog, my German shepherd, Bear. On flat flood plains, he makes me lie down in green pastures. By the Thames, he leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths. Even though I walk through a dark valley carved by time, by glacial time, like the scourges on his back, like the flies on his back, like iron filings pulled by a magnet across time, in the silent, constant fog of my suicidal mind, in the shadow of death, in the grey, in the trudge of the tedious day, my mate Ralph from NA, sent a clip of Rick Warren on some televangelical smiling show with a blonded host, husband and wife, all teeth and tax breaks. And Rick Warren, unremarkable and rounded, bearded and never seen by me before, plainly explains his son's suicide without self-pity or false pride. And my oh so agile mind is met at last by you, Lord, my Christ, my glorious Christ.
I feel like Rick Warren's catching some strays there, like, this boring fat guy talking about some shit. And then Christ came. I mean, I suppose that is the ultimate compliment, I guess. Rick Warren was partially responsible for Russell's awakening. But yeah. Boy. Also, yeah, we're still at the slam poetry night, huh? Fuck me. Like, I appreciate wanting to write some vivid prose about what was a profound personal time in your life, but not everything has to rhyme.
And I sit now by the top field where Bear had gored sheep the winter before, blood on snow. And in the valley, Lord, in the shadow of death, yours, Lord, not mine, I saw your cross as you took my hand, my gracious King, and you have held it since. I don't know if I cried then, but I weep now, God, to feel once more how lonely and how broken I was by febrile and foolish worship, and how hard I'd clung to the graven images of my precious culture and my precious place in it. Famous.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a new story. Someone loses everything that they held dear and then convert to a religion. That fits a specific pattern. That we've seen quite a bit before. But okay, sure. In terms of his dog, however, Bear was a German Shepherd. Died recently. Massive German Shepherd. And I maintain that there are no bad dogs. There are just bad owners. But that dog killed multiple animals. Like there are, if you go back, there are multiple news stories you can find of Russell losing control of that dog or not having it on a lead, and it just running up and slaughtering animals of varying, surprising sizes. I think one of them was like a wallaby or something. I can't remember that story exactly, but yeah, just absolutely loved murdering shit. And Russell just continued to let that happen. And so like the goring sheep the year before will have happened in 2022 at that point. And you're like, there are stories going back to, I don't know, like 2018, 19 at least, of this happening. And I'm like, what are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? Oh, just no responsibility, no respect, no nothing. Poor bloody dog.
When all reality was created, you were created too. There was an ultimate reality, heaven, and an expressed reality, earth. Light came after vibration. God, in wave form, created the particular by speaking light into being. Through light, we can see, whether we envisage that as photons or awareness. You must know the truth of your condition. In sin, we are dead men walking. Can you awaken to the need for Christ in your life? Do you feel formless, empty, and dark?
No.
God is hovering just above you. Here
That's
are some
ominous.
questions to consider. Do you admit that your life is not working? That we must admit we are in crisis? That we are not drowning, we are dead in the water? You've heard the first part of my testimony, and this is no small thing. You've lived your whole life up until this point. Let's level with each other. It's not working, is it? The good things and the bad things, the whole thing. Being you and being me is not enough, and it will never be enough. It was never supposed to be. You trying to get happiness out of yourself in this world is like trying to get blood out of a stone or a self-effacing remark out of Trump, or, just to show this is way beyond politics, a cogent answer out of Biden. Or if the news is to be believed, and it isn't, a signature.
Oh, good. We're making auto pen jokes. Fucking yeah, this is beyond politics. What a bleak fucking prognosis that is. Oh, you trying to get joy out of yourself in this world? Like getting blood from a stone. Jesus. Like... Talk about laying it on thick for the hard sell. Like, I realize the main point of a lot of this is, hey, you're a fucking piece of shit and your life sucks. Come over here and it won't be. Like, I realize that's the aim here, but good lord. Like, my life is fine, and the things that aren't fine about my life are broadly out of my control. Like health things or whatever, or systemic things happening in the world. We do what we can, but I'm not holding the keys to any particular kingdom, so, but other than that, everything's kind of fine, like it's not bad. Like the world itself is kind of fucked, sure. But again, that comes down to a lot of problems that I don't have any personal control over. The only thing I can do is make this show and hope it helps in some way for someone. That's the best I've got. Other than that, not feeling any pressing need to commune with God hovering above me somewhere. apparently. But if anyone does, then, fine. Enjoy. Just, don't let this guy tell you you're a piece of shit in order to force you into it.
Please honestly admit to yourself at least 3 things that are causing you pain and suffering in the space below. This being an audiobook, please use a notepad or a
There's the
physical
blank
copy
page.
of the book. I'm an old hand at this. I could do this with Joe Biden's auto pen, and I've not even thought about these examples. Here are some. My children will die. I'm getting old. No matter what happens in court, such as acquittal or the evident presence of malign power, some people will always think I'm a rapist.
Yeah.
I can never take drugs again. What if my wife leaves me?
Seems
It came so easily, I literally had to stop myself writing. Now you, take a breath, pray. Lord, if you're real, help me to put aside all of my preconceptions about you and myself and write down what bothers me. Now that you've done this, if you can stand to,
Okay. I feel like
look
we need a
into
longer
mirror and
amount of time.
pause, breathe a while, at least 2 minutes, and admit, I cannot do this alone anymore. When you've done this, please spend a few minutes in the company of someone who loves you. If there is no one, then please know that I love you. And more
Ooh.
importantly, he does. And he is here now. Here we conclude the first day.
Oh, goody. Okay, so there's a portion of the exercises that we've got. Yeah, I mean, I'm not feeling great about them. The only thing I will say that is effective is, like, anytime I watch a video of any kind where someone tells me, hey, take a deep breath, I can't help myself but do it. Like just as a reflex, I'm like, yep, I'm taking a deep breath. And you do feel better about most things after taking a deep breath. That is the one thing I took from that. I'm not sure I need to stare at myself in the mirror for 2 minutes. And as for having, like, people around, like, you're not alone and everything, yeah, like, the thing that people yearn for, that humanity yearns for, that we are lacking in today's society is community. Like, that's the thing that we struggle with now, because we've been isolated and separated out, and we spend far more time indoors. Third spaces have been dismantled because most of them were publicly funded, right? There aren't many places for people to go and connect with other human beings these days. And so, like, there is a rise in people attempting to remedy that in various places, which is great. But yeah, you don't need the love of Russell or whoever is in the room with him to be able to deal with that. It's finding your local community, or sometimes you're not local community, sometimes online communities, right? There are all sorts of options for us out there. It doesn't have to be religion based. It doesn't have to be like, hey, we all believe in this specific creator of any kind, this specific deity, like fucking join a woodworking club or something, there's community in that. Queer nights, queer groups or whatever. This is more, my kind of vibe. I don't know. I resent anyone just being like, yeah, this is the one way. I'm like, no, that's just not true.
Here is how the problem of addiction is described in a rich and vital correspondence between Alcoholics Anonymous founder Bill W. and father of psychology and modern mystic Carl Jung. In this exchange, famous among...
Sorry, he just called Carl Jung a modern mystic. The only person who I've heard him call a mystic otherwise is Alex Jones. So, just a thought.
12-step nerds, Bill W. credits Jung with spontaneously concocting the molecular formulation of AA when Jung hit Roland Hazard, an alcoholic under his care who had been most recalcitrant and unresponsive to his treatment, with a harsh prognosis. You are doomed. You are hopeless, and you are going to die from your alcoholism.
That's a bad accent.
Almost As a Columbo-style afterthought, Jung, who if nothing else trusted his intuition, said there may be a slim hope if his patient, 1, had a profound spiritual experience, which we might call an awakening or even an epiphany. 2, continued to receive the ongoing support of a like-minded and invested community.
Okay, so Jung inadvertently came up with the idea of, like, you know, having a sponsor and having a, you know, a group. Okay, sure. But yeah, I'm not sure how thrilled he would be with the comparison to Columbo. I mean, I personally would be flattered if someone compared me to Columbo, but Carl Jung, I'm not so sure.
These two components, by the reckoning of AA founder Bill W., are the foundational principles of AA and therefore all 12-step oriented recovery programs.
And just one other thing.
It's also notable that Bill W. considered Jung's personal declaration that he could be of no further assistance to his former patient as of considerable value too, insomuch as it represented a threshold that remained significant within AA, that no human power could relieve us of our dilemma, with Jung, in this instance, providing a plausible apex for human power, particularly in the field of psychoanalysis, that to this day remains to some a viable alternative to religious faith.
I mean, I don't think it does, but okay, I'd like those function very differently. But also, like, the concept discussed there of, like, hey, I don't think there's anything more I can do for you. You know, I like also leans into, you know, the kind of the therapist's perspective of, like, you have to want to be helped. You have to want to change. Like, if you want something to be different, you have to want to change. And I know that's a fundamental thing within AA and 12-step programs in general, is like you have to want that. That's the, you know, core part of the first step. You know, and the first one's always the hardest, right? And it's the same with therapy. Like, you have to want to change, and you have to be able to admit what the problem is. You have to be able to name it and describe it and want it to change. Because otherwise, yeah, you can't help anyone do shit. And that, you know, possibly revelatory at the time for Jung et al. But yeah, broadly makes complete sense in many fields now.
It excites me as an alcoholic and drug addict that Jung so readily equated chemical dependency and misuse with a spiritual thirst, and as a Christian that he reached for Psalm 42 as the scriptural compound that demonstrated his point. Jung continues, how could one formulate such an insight in a language that's not understood in our days? I'm intrigued that Jung so quickly observed that the culture of the 20th century was already skeptical when discussing spiritual experiences. Until literally 18 months ago, when there seemed to me to be an inexplicable lurch towards religion. Indeed, I consider my own conversion to be part of the global revival that I alluded to at the start of this book. The trend towards rationalism, materialism, and even atheism was continuing apace.
Okay, I mean, is that interesting, really? In the same way that, is it that interesting that Jung would ascribe moral failings to a spiritual problem, given that he was Christian? You know, like, is that shocking in that situation? Because I don't fucking think it is. I think if that's the system that you are kind of designed to think within, if that's the way you are, you know, that you have been raised and instructed to diagnose problems, then that's how you're going to do it, right? It's not terribly fascinating that Jung was like, yes, this must be a spiritual problem, you know, because I'm sure he had been told that plenty of times about plenty of things before, you know? Like, it really, again, not that unique.
To note that the near advent of psychotherapy and towards the end of his life, one of its founders acknowledged the necessity for faith, in this context for the treatment of serious addiction, But as we will explore, the diagnostics, language, and solution outlined here may help us understand the failure of secularism and to facilitate the return to Christ that is a personal and cosmic solution.
Okay, so secularism bad, Jesus good. That's where we're going. Secularism bad, Jesus good.
But it is what Jung says next that I would like to leverage in persuading you to spark, light, or reignite your own relationship with Jesus. Jung appears to conclude that a supernatural evil entity, an organized demonic intelligence, is in control of the world. An idea with which any well-versed Christian or even a semi-committed conspiracy theorist will be most familiar when he says, I am strongly convinced that the evil principle prevailing in this world leads the unrecognized spiritual need into perdition if it is not counteracted either by real religious insight or by the protective wall of human community. An ordinary man not protected by an action from above and isolated in society cannot resist the power of evil, which is called very aptly the devil.
Okay. So the devil runs the world, and here's the thing, right? Within that system, yes, you are inherently you describe the root of all evil as Satan, as Lucifer, as any of these things. And so like, yeah, if you're describing evil, that's the way you're going to go with it. There are other things though, and the diagnosis of it just being a great evil is not particularly fucking helpful. Now, the notion of like, community and other things kind of interjecting, sure, that's helpful. But the idea of like, the devil controls the world, it is bad. Like that's not, because what are we actually talking about there? And why so often is it capitalism and imperialism? Why?
Now, I must cop to my nerdiness here. For me, correspondence between Bill W. and Carl Jung is like eavesdropping on the meeting between Elvis and the Beatles, or Biggie and Tupac, or Watson and Crick, or Noam Chomsky and Stephen Hawking at a cabana bar on Epstein Island, if they could even talk with their mouths full. Here, we have the patient zero of alcoholism, the great Bill W., a man with an ego the size of a continent who by faith and guidance was able to found an anonymous organization and keep money and credit out of it, intimately communing with the man that kept the mystery of human consciousness and spirit alive in psychoanalysis, when his collaborator Sigmund Freud would have reduced our numinous yet knowable souls into naught but hopeless hankerings after incest and cocaine.
I mean, he did other stuff too. Just saying. There was a lot of shit that Freud was wrong about. But a good amount of shit that he kind of got, and there's a reason, as I had to go through with the Candace Owens episode, that Freud is the basis of modern psychology, because it's talk therapy and all that shit that he absolutely got right. And tell you what, if you ask a modern day psychologist or therapist of any description, whether they feel more secure about Freudian shit or Jungian shit, I know who they're going to go for.
Freud's psychoanalysis in the end is reducible to fretful perversions and repressed fantasy, reifying the sexual instinct as both the highest human experience and the source of all malady. Believe me, I bought a ticket to that donkey derby,
really.
And it doesn't end well.
I mean, sure, you had a lot of, we know that, but yeah, you're still wrong about Freud broadly. I mean, that was some of it. That was some of it, and the guy did do a lot of cocaine. Like that was absolutely a factor there, and definitely had his own stuff going on. But yeah, that's not not so related to Russell just being an absolute fucking fiend for sexual interaction to the point of it being obvious mental illness.
Both Wilson and Jung discovered and explained that beyond the explicable catastrophes that may afflict a man, whether from extreme mental illness or extreme substance misuse, is the unmet need for God, a moral God, a real God within to comfort and a God without to establish immutable moral standards. And this at a time where an apparent global plan to demolish God and replace him with state authority was reaching near invincibility.
Sorry, what plan was this? I feel like I missed something there. We seem to have skipped ahead, and this was happening as this big plan to erase God from existence was being undertaken. And more detail on that, please.
Jung says that an evil principle is prevailing in this world, and goes on to say that the power of evil may as well be called the devil. Once, as I was departing one of those self-help meetings that you get these days, where the principles of the 12 steps fuse with the principles of the church, one example being celebrate recovery, I sidled up to a fella to whom I had inclined, as I often do within these rooms, on hearing people, eyes middle distance fixed, dreamily declare their fascinating, idiosyncratic but recognizable wrongs, the heartbreak and hopelessness, the messy marriages and soiled trousers, the broken childhoods and warped thinking, and asked him, as an addict and a Christian, which metaphor do you consider to be more apt when describing your condition, the preferred 12-step moniker disease, or the Christian personification of evil, the devil? After but a moment of reflection, this lay practitioner of heathen metaphysics responded, the devil, with eerie certainty. He continued, because it's a planned, organized evil intelligence.
I mean, this meeting happened in Florida, right? I'm just saying, if that conversation happened at a meeting in the UK, I suspect it would have gone differently. And here's the thing: I understand the appeal of wanting to characterize addiction as something that is external and beyond control, because so far as I'm aware, that's pretty much how it feels. You cannot control that, and that's kind of the nature of the beast. Planned? Then we're getting into interesting territories there. But I guess right. If I want to be generous, you can argue that ultimately corporations and companies benefit from that addiction, right? Depending on what it is. Alcoholism is a great example, right? We see alcohol advertisements everywhere. Certainly in this country, right? In fact, in this country, as Americans, you have all recently found out with the World Cup, we drink a lot over here, to the point where if we didn't, our economy would collapse. And I mean that literally. It would overnight fucking be done. And so, yeah, there is a degree of, capitalistic benefit from addiction to some degrees. On a kind of in a different way with harder drugs that are illegal and whatnot. Different beneficiaries there. But I still wouldn't go so far as to say planned. Systemic, sure, we can tackle systemic, but planned, again, that feels far too specific.
I like the verdict in the phrase so much that I've already plagiarized it in this book. It resonated with me in the same way Jung's earlier words do. Evil principle prevailing in this world. Haven't you always known that evil was real? Haven't you stopped short, perhaps through fear of being judged, from screaming outright, the devil is alive and well and living in DC or Westminster or Davos or Jerusalem? Isn't it obvious now why human excellence is everywhere oppressed and human beauty denigrated? Why our food is poisoned at the point of manufacture? Why companies charged with medical responsibility actually do harm? Why the institutions that are meant to convey truth deceive and lie? Why the function of government has become to control rather than to serve? Why commerce has become maximally exploitative? Why children are being sexualized? It is because the devil is in charge of this world.
Meanwhile, Russell, big fan of X, big fan of Elon Musk, the place where people can get grok to undress children. And images, you know? Yeah. Also big fan of Trump still. That's still going on. Fucking hell. Like, you want to tell me that evil is in the hands of governments, and like some of it is, yeah, for sure. Like there are definitely things that are happening in the Middle East right now that could be fixed over fucking night with some responsible people in charge. But also, don't try and tell me that Elon Musk isn't a problem. Don't try and tell me that Jeff fucking Bezos isn't a problem, right? Don't try and tell me, it's all Klaus Schwab and like all these other people. I'm like, no. It is wealth inequality. It is capitalism. And yes, fucking Zionism as well. I don't need to scream about the devil. I can scream about real fucking people. I can scream about real problems. I can yell about the real pieces of shit that are destroying this world. I can yell about Nigel Farage until I'm fucking blue in the face. And as soon as this cunt actually bothers to cover the news that is happening about Nigel Farage, I will, for your viewing pleasure, rail against that massive piece of shit. Like, do I want to scream about the devil? No! Who gives a fuck? Big red guy from South Park, as far as I'm concerned. Jesus. Give me real problems to deal with, you jackass.
This is not just my intuition and personal observation. Consider this from the Gospel of Luke, where at the commencement of his ministry, our Lord is tempted by Satan to ensure he's up to the job. The devil led him up to a high place and showed him in an instant all the kingdoms of the world. Then he said to him, I will give you all their authority and splendor. It has been given to me, and I can give it to anyone I want to. If you worship me, it will all be yours. Luke 4, 5-7, NIV. The devil led him to a high place. I consider this to be a kind of transcendent psychedelic superstate rather than a hill, mountain, or topographical high. I believe that the reason that it's in an instant is because a dialogue between God as man, and to use Jung's phrase, the evil principle prevailing in this world, is an exchange outside of and beyond time.
Again, I think it was a hill. I'm really like, I'm pretty sure it was a hill. Everyone, I remember seeing like drawings of this shit when I was in school, because again, you know, we're fucking Christianity is embedded in our school systems here. I remember seeing drawings of that specific thing. It was always on a hill, you know? It can be a hill and then a hallucination. Because what followed was definitely a hallucination. Either that, or it was like a Simba from the Lion King moment, you know, like, you know, gaze upon all the lands, you know, Simba, right? Yeah.
Here too is the scriptural statement, one of many, that from a biblical position, worldly power belongs to the devil. I will give you the authority it has been given to me, and I can give it to anyone I want to. Perhaps you think that using the Bible to prove the existence of the devil or God is like using DC Comics to prove the existence of Batman and the Penguin. But do you feel the chill that claims me? The inward affirmation on hearing this. The ancient explanation of worldly evil in your life and at large?
No, I don't. But yes, like self-referencing to prove something, famously, not a good argument.
The haunting sense that the world has become so wretched might be because the devil is eternally making this offer, and Christ repudiates eternally. Not so with fallen humans like you and I, though. When the devil makes the offer that he made to Christ to mortals, we do not cite Scripture and ascend towards the Father. No, most accept the dreadful pact. We have been trained for our whole lives to believe that when the offer of worldly power comes, it is the highest bid that we will receive. We have been blinded and don't even see the offer as external temptation, but as a natural inner fulfillment of necessary rational goals. It's what we're supposed to do. Be yourself. Just do it. You're worth it. Become who you are according to the mad metrics of this broken, fallen world. Accept the devil's offer and worship the dumb idols of money and fame and sex. Pursue it actively or vicariously. Many of our most adored heroes have at some point made this pact. Only Christ has perfectly refuted it. Likely you, like me, have made your own version of this diabolical contract without even noticing it. The most malign and effective power doesn't even appear to be power at all, just a chance to conform to the patterns of this world.
Okay, so it's not a literal contract with Satan, though, because I was gonna have to ask everyone, because if you guys have had meetings with Satan, then I'm like, well, where's mine? You know, what? I'm not saying I would sign anything, you know, dude's famously not to be trusted, but, you know, I at least want the respect of a meeting. Okay, so it's like, again, the problems he's actually describing are capitalism. And I mean, sex, like, yeah, people shouldn't idolize sex in any kind of way. We do have biological drives in us, though, that are, you know, in his view, designed. They're supposed to be there, supposedly, right? So, you know, need to be dealt with, and reined in, I guess. But yeah, mostly capitalism. That's what he's actually fucking describing as being the problem there. But instead, it's Satan. It's Satan. Only Christ has refuted it perfectly. And I'm like, yeah, because here's the thing. I hate capitalism as much as the next person. I detest all of it. And yet, I still have to exist within the system of capitalism. I still have to make money, otherwise I am dead. You know, and my child is dead, and my cat is dead, and everything else is a fucking problem, right? I still have to exist within that system. And so I am forced to enter a deal with the devil, so to speak. And again, this coming from a man who says that welfare is there to keep us, you know, lazy and sucking on the teat of government. And I'm like, well, which is it? Because if there was universal basic income, that wouldn't be a fucking problem, right? It wouldn't be an issue. Nobody would have to make that deal with the devil, you know? But here we are. So what do you want to do? Fucking wealthy prick. Ah, dear.
Here is a surprising scriptural rendering of this subtle form of false idolatry. It's one of the first verses that really grabbed me, not because someone had pointed it out or explained it, although I, of course, have plenty of those to refer to. This is one of the first examples of the word speaking to me. Again, it's from the Gospel of Luke. Here, the 72 disciples have just returned from an early mission, casting out demons and healing and such, when they gleefully, if a little hubristically, inform our Lord Jesus of their adventures and triumphs. He says, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. I've given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you. However, do not rejoice that the spirits submit to you, but rejoice that your names are written in heaven. Luke 10:18 NIV. Why does his admonishment begin with this extraordinary claim to have witnessed the fall of Lucifer? Who would make such a thing up? Why does this man Jesus reference seeing this weird, eerie, mythic, historic, mystical and trippy moment when Satan fell from heaven?
Because
It
he's
is
God.
because these effective yet inflated missionaries have committed the very sin that Satan did. The sin which caused Satan to fall from heaven, from grace, from the absolute, to separate. Before there was an Adam and Eve or even an Eden, this Satan had fallen. Why? What did he do? And why does Christ mention it now? Christ teaches in time, through time, and here uses the opportunity of inadvertent but definite hubris to illustrate to his followers that Satan and sin itself is defined by the tendency to claim authority and power over your own life and actions apart from God. The false belief that you created yourself and that you belong to yourself and that you can do what you want with your life.
Oh, okay. I can't do what I want with my life. And I don't belong to me. Again, fascinating. From a guy who is all about, like, autonomy. You know, that's the thing he talks about the most. Is people having their own free will to choose whatever the fuck they want, and we need tinier democracies, we need micro democracies, so that, you know, people can make decisions for themselves on the smallest possible basis, and yet also my life is not my own, and I am not allowed to decide what I want to do with it. Also, Jesus is God. I don't know if he seems to have missed that bit, but it's, you know, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, all the same thing? No? Any of it?
All sin begins in self, not with transgression of action, but with transgression of perspective, with the breach beyond the holy flow of his eternal grace, his absolute presence and non-separateness from you. Satan fell from grace and from heaven because he believed, like I do sometimes, like you may when infected by his essential contagion, that we are sovereign. And as every TV commercial instructs, and as the Enlightenment posits, and as Instagram unthinkingly demands, I am the apex, the zenith of all creation, that I am as God, that I can do what I want, that do what thou wilt is the whole of the law.
I mean, I can do what I want within a certain set of parameters. Again, right, we are dealing with a guy who famously has a messiah complex and bipolar disorder, which also can lean heavily into the messiah side of things. So I'm like, yeah, no wonder you felt this way. That's not how I operate. I don't think I'm the apex of anything. Oh, dear. All of this is written from the perspective that everyone must feel the way that Russell feels about things, and nobody feels the way that Russell feels about things.
Now, to be fair to Aleister Crowley, the filthy Satanist who coined that crazy satanic mantra, his philosophy of thelema did include the idea that will, when perfectly practiced under the law of love, would tend towards a kind of cosmic harmony. And to be fair to the Enlightenment, many of the key ideas, like primacy of reason, natural rights, and the social contract, had benefits. Notably, and this is no small achievement, Western civilization. But, and it's a big, significant but, one less T and a lot more clout than even, I don't know, Megan Thee Stallion's but, all the best aspects of Enlightenment philosophy are already in Christianity, and the biggest failings are a result of deviation from it. Although I will concede that God didn't directly give us telescopes or microscopes, just the minds to conceive of them and the eyes to use them.
Well, then why does it matter? Like, if all of the things that, you know, writers in the Enlightenment wrote about were already in the Bible, why would they have needed to write them? And why would it have been such a revolution at the time? I feel like something's missing, you know? But again, very clearly there, describing the Enlightenment as the downfall of society. He has been making this claim virtually since I started covering him. In that conversation with Richard Dawkins that I need to update. But yeah, secularism and the Enlightenment is the downfall of society. deviation from God and the Bible is the downfall of society, according to this man. And we have no sovereignty.
Here's how ChatGPT, that plaything of Beelzebub, surmises these key Enlightenment tenets. Enlightenment thinkers believe that human reasoning and...
I'm sorry. Yes, he did just say that he asked ChatGPT for its summary of all of this stuff. Famously reliable large language model. Yeah. So the book wasn't written by AI, and you can tell that, but we've managed to cram it in somewhere anyway.
Empirical evidence, rather than religious dogma or superstition, were the primary sources of knowledge and truth. This confidence in reason led to the development of the scientific method and a surge of scientific inquiry. The scientific method and scientific inquiry are pretty fantastic things, but anyone who's lived through a pandemic will surely recognise its fallibility and its limits. And that's all of us, except for those of us who died in it or after it due to the mRNA vaccines that were so effective that we had, by means of propaganda, threats, and out-and-out lies, be compelled to take them, had to rewrite the dictionary so the word vaccine meant what they now needed it to mean, secured legal indemnity prior to using their experimental and, in some cases, lethal products.
Okay, sure. Fuck it. I'm done arguing with the bullshit anymore. Oh my god. We just had to fucking bring that into it. We had to bring the pandemic into it, right? Because that was the moment. Because, like, it was the first fucking video where he was, like, just asking questions about COVID that suddenly on his YouTube channel hit 1 million views, where he was previously pissing about with, 10,000 or whatever. Suddenly, bam, million. Because of that, he just won't fucking let go of it. He just will not shut up about the same absolute bollocks. Because it's all he's got. It's all he's got. Let's be honest. It's the thing that got him here, and now he doesn't know what the fuck to do. So we've got this shitty book, and he's still trying to pull out the greatest hits.
Any of you detecting the potential presence of planned evil intelligence in that itinerary should at once check yourself into the David Icke Sanitarium for the conspiratorially insane. And please don't read any of the Epstein file correspondence between the eponymous Jeffrey and Bill Gates, because it looks like they were discussing and even planning a global pandemic, lockdown, and vaccine rollout before any of us knew where Wuhan was or what spike protein meant.
Fucking snooze. I swear to God. Like, it's been 6 years. All of this shit has been widely fucking debunked. Also, stop bringing up Epstein without bringing up Trump. I'm just saying. Like, the man has not once, in the duration of my time covering him, gone, hey, Epstein and Trump seem to be buddies, huh? That seemed to be a thing. Not once. Oh, great rebel that is Russell Brand.
I never took him myself as a natural rebel when it comes to human authority, especially the government and the media, due to, well, being alive for a while. I'm aware of the irony that when addicted to heroin, I was quite willing to take gritties, my crack and heroin dealers, dubious merchandise without FDA approval or due sanitation, but those were different times. And anyway, I'd still trust gritty over Pfizer. Frankly, my disobedience saved me when it came to COVID vaccines and their interminable boosters. Boosters! What were they boosting other than Moderna profits and male infertility? Them boosters kept coming, and when you thought they were expired, here comes another one, like Kardashians. If the government had really wanted me to take those shots, all they had to do was hide one somewhere in my house and tell me under no circumstances was I to touch it. I'd have had it injected into my optic nerve within an hour.
Oh, good. And now we've got the greatest hits from his stand-up from 2023, no less. Jeez. And it was dated then. Oh boy. Also Kardashians? I mean, like, they're all very much grown-ass adults. It's not like more just keep, popping out the woodwork. It's the same people. And yes, as it happens, yes, Russell didn't get the vaccine, or the boosters, which, are there to deal with the different strains of COVID. Again, it mutates, but that's only a thing that happens if you believe that COVID is real, which Russell does not. So, you can see how there's a foundational problem there. Also, his children are not vaccinated, so that's good. Have fun in Florida. Hope there's no polio comebacks.
Before we conclude Jung's eerie foretelling of this extraordinary revival that you and I are now part of, here are a few more scriptural allusions to and descriptions of Satan's dominion over the earth. For further evidence of the evil one's control over culture, please download X and scroll down for about 15 seconds. That should give you all the proof you need.
Yes, because X is hell. Yes, I agree with that. And do you know why? It's because it's run by Elon fucking Musk. That's why. It's because the absolute dregs of society exist on that platform to just spout absolute bile and porn, and that's it. You get fucking racism and bigotry of all stripes and pornography and various bullshit conspiracy theories. Yes, I agree. Scrolling down X for 15 seconds will make you believe in the devil. And that devil happens to have become the world's first fucking trillionaire, theoretically.
If you followed my career when I was working in contemporary Babylon's soft propaganda wing, aka Hollywood, you may be aware that I was a stand-up comedian. You may even know that I made a blasphemous show called Messiah Complex, in which I compared myself to Jesus Christ, as well as Malcolm X, Che Guevara, and Gandhi. It was actually pretty funny, aside from the heresy. A huge part of my reluctance to follow Jesus was that I wanted to be Jesus. This is not as ridiculous as it sounds, nor as uncommon as it ought to be. Look again at Luke 10:18. Isn't Satan's defining and essential sin that he wants to be God? I wanted to be the epicenter of my own life, master of my domain. As much as I resisted the divine aspect of Christ, it was my resistance to the fully man aspect of our Lord that is perhaps most telling. I don't want to bow down in front of a man, steady. I don't want to take the knee and pledge obedience before a man. I don't trust men. Men have hurt me badly. Most of the times I've been beaten up or degraded, it's been at the hands of men. Indeed, and I mean this with all due respect to my own dad, the idea of an ever-present father who loves me more than I can comprehend or requite is enough to choke me.
I'm not surprised. Your dad, when you were a small child, used to leave porn on the television and go and fuck women in the room next door. Your dad, famously, not a very good dad. Yeah, I'm not surprised you struggle with that concept, Russell.
I've been conditioned to withhold my trust from men and to regard fathers with deep suspicion. I grew up in the 80s and 90s before men were subject to vindictive and ubiquitous condemnation. Almost everywhere you look in our culture, men are portrayed badly. They're corrupt patriarchs, they're sexual predators, they're paedophiles, they're hypocrites and racists, they're absent and abusive fathers, they're man-spreading, mansplaining, woman-hating monsters. Lord, help the recipients of that cultural message, regardless of their sex.
You have literally just said that men are the only people who, beat you up, and that you have been conditioned not to trust men because they've treated you so terribly, and you would struggle to kneel before one because of said treatment, including from your own father. And yet... You're trying to argue against the notion that the statistics don't fucking lie at the end of the day. If you look at crime in general, all crime across the board, it's 99% men. It just is. We have one women's prison in the UK. One that's left. The rest of them, all men. Right? Like, and it's not saying that there aren't issues that cause that problem. It's not saying that it's the inherent masculinity that is the issue. There are so many systemic problems around all of this. But yeah, it's not the women doing the crimes. Like, all of the things he just listed that is being said about men, they're all fucking true. Yes. Yes. Overwhelmingly, it is the men doing all of these bad things. That is true. Like, that's just reality, unfortunately, and we need to deal with it rather than being like, oh, well, you know, everyone hates men now. Like, no. We just need to deal with the fact that, yeah, it is overwhelmingly men doing these things, so we need to figure out that issue. We need to address that as a populace. Particularly the men need to address that, because they're the only ones who can, because they don't listen to the women, so, you know.
That's two aspects of the Trinity that I'm not going to go anywhere near in a hurry. The Son and the Father. And the third, the Holy Ghost, is by his nature somewhat ineffable. Why not then yield to the inarguable creed of our culture and worship yourself? Worship fame and money and sex and pleasure. Why not create mystical and altered states through chemicals and sex? Why not glorify the self? Be ambitious for the self. It seems so plausible when you're in it too. All the attention and approval, the laughs, the orgasms, the billboards with your face on them, the headlines with your name in them, the perfect salve to a deep and permanent sense of loss and separation, of hopeless exile.
Again, he is very much trying to act as though his experience there is in any way ubiquitous. Like, no, the list of people who have had their face on a billboard is pretty small. And despite being in the industry that I am, I do sincerely hope that my face is never on a billboard, because I would be deeply unsettled with that. Nonetheless, yeah, that's not a universal experience, Russell. That's just, yeah, you got famous and did some shit. Like, and again, even being in this industry, right? I'm like, being a trained musician, being, you know, doing this, like, I am not a person motivated by money. And you know how you know that? It's because I'm doing this show right now. I am not a person that is financially motivated. As long as I've got enough to live, maybe a little bit extra, you know, for something nice every now and then, I'm fine, you know? Universally, my problem is when I get money, I tend to give it away, actually, because I don't have that association with it. Russell, however, does have that problem and was, you know, worshipping the self and all of these things. But even in that, I don't think that's a universal experience. I really don't. From everyone that I've ever spoken to, I don't think anyone is chasing the same things that he was chasing. You know, even just within our own daily lives, like, yeah, we'd like a bit more money, maybe a slightly nicer place to live. You know, there are certain things that we would like, but none of it to the extent or the extremity of what he was going for. Like, absolutely not. And especially on a sexual level, what most people actually crave is intimacy. Like, that's what most people actually want from that situation. Like, yeah, the sex is great and everything, but it's the intimacy that comes with it that makes it of value. And there's a reason the list of people who, yes, have had their name on a billboard, but also have fucked as many women as Russell Brand has, is very small. And it's because you have to be a very specific type of mentally ill to pursue it to that level, you know?
When you are a cherished artifact of the culture, it seems
I'm sorry, when were you cherished, you piece of shit? You were never, like, we hated you even when we loved you. That's the reality. Every single time Russell Brand came up was like, this fucking guy. Well, let's watch it, I guess. Let's watch Get Him to the Greek.
somehow warranted. No wonder I'm having all this sex and making all this money and having people stare agog at my spontaneous opining. I am, after all, the most important thing in the world. Of course, I didn't recognize that my credit from the culture was an almost inadvertent consequence of the role that I'd been unwittingly cast to play in it. Bad boy hedonist, cheeky Brit, sex-mad bohemian, living endorsement of promiscuity and aspartame narcissism. Again, I thought, I am the most important thing in the world, and I deserve this after everything I've been through, tough childhood, addiction, etc.
Of course you think that. You are one of the most narcissistic people that has existed. Of course you think that. Plus, the bipolar is not gonna help that situation. The unmedicated, by the way. Like... yeah, of course you felt that way. That's not how everyone feels. Like... I have never once had that feeling in anything, in any success that I have had, be it minor or more significant. I have never been like, fuck yeah, me, you know? If anything, anytime anyone likes something I do, like internally, I'm like, yeah, but there's so many fucking problems with it. Oh, there are so many things that I wish I'd done better, right? Because that's how my brain works. It doesn't go like that. And I know from experience that there are plenty more people who think the way I do compared to the way he does. Oh, boy.
I first noticed that the value of a public figure is assigned on the basis of their utility in the new firmament when reading Yuval Noah Harari's admittedly excellent book, Sapiens, which, if you've been living under a rock or more likely staring at a screen, is an articulate appraisal of our species' condition as creatures who literally, for what reason not even Harari can tell you, make up meaning. Therefore, our shared destiny lies, he says, in the hands of those most currently adept at imposing centralized control. He foresees and recommends a future in which an infinitely empowered and centralized state exerts through technology total biocontrol.
Foresees, perhaps. I wouldn't say recommends. A good chunk of the end of that book is a warning. Again, there is a fundamental misreading from Russell here, that he has continued with, and I think it's because someone just said it to him and he believed it, but yeah, there is a fundamental like, oh, this could be bad at the end of that book. Also, the book in general does have broader problems. It's mostly fine, but like, you know, imperfect. But yeah, definitely serves as a warning.
Sapiens is an anthropological history that, through its conclusion that there is no God, ultimately advocates for a new world order. It is Barack Obama's favorite book. Project 2030, you will own nothing and you will be happy. Eat the bugs, wear the mask, take the vax, support the war, pay the tax, digital ID, free speech is not hate speech, misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, our information, globalist imperial order. All these happy globalist creeds hang upon the ideas that Harari explains so well in his, again, well-written, Obama-adored manifesto.
As though that makes it terrible. I mean, Obama also really likes Jay-Z. Should I feel the same way about that? And Yuval Noah Harari is Jewish. He at no point concludes that there is no God. Like, no. That's just not what he says or believes. Just that we as a species yearn for and search for meaning, and will sometimes ascribe that to things where it doesn't make any fucking sense, which is true. You know, from ancient peoples worshipping the sun to where we are today. You know, it's just the nature of our existence is to find meaning and to try and make sense of the world and have some way of explaining things that makes life easier, right? Like it's not a new thing particularly. That, like, most of that book is not new necessarily. You know, it's just kind of the end bit, the predictions that was the newer kind of part.
The first part of Sapiens is great. Harari explores and explains how we can create flags, logos, icons, and meaning to generate cohesive stories that enable us to profit as groups or tribes of increasing size. whether it's a car company like Peugeot or a Neolithic plan to catch a mammoth, a nation's flag, or, you guessed it, a religion, according to Harari, and coincidentally anyone who's seriously interested in impermeable power, what distinguishes Homo sapiens from rats or pigs or the many obsolete humanoids that he's certainly bludgeoned to death, based on faith, is our ability to just make stuff up and pretend it's true. Now, even if that idea appeals to you, and it's a key facet of atheism, of course, just for a moment consider Lucius Cassius Longinus Ravilia's timeless inquiry, cui bono, or in English, who benefits? The answer is any institute or system determined to ensure its own total power by denying the existence of any other source of authority.
Cui bono. I don't think that's true. I think multiple things can coexist. It just depends whether they're in competition with one another, right? Because multiple systems of power exist, coexist, in cooperation. Countries is a broad example. The European Union, famously pretty fucking cooperative. And there are definitely things that that could never be in competition with one another in that kind of way. And so like the only people that would benefit from the notion of saying that there is no God is the people who believe that, which are still statistically a minority. So, and all the people at the top of all of these fucking institutions are usually a religion of some kind, because most people are, right? There is a lot in Russell's kind of tendencies. There is just a lot of ascribing malice where there is none. And I realize that's a symptom of conspiratorially minded people, where just like they see a thing, that could be the most fucking innocuous thing in the world, and be like, that means you're trying to kill me, or whatever. But it's particularly insidious, and especially again amongst the narcissistic kind of individuals, because I've worked with my share of narcissists, some far closer than I would like, the kind of the built-in sort of victim complex with that, combined with the conspiratorially minded side of it, can be absolutely lethal. And that's a part of what we're seeing unfold with Russell.
If men don't believe in God, it doesn't mean they'll believe in nothing, but that they'll believe in anything, is how Catholic writer G.K. Chesterton is said to have termed the precondition for the modern paganism for which Harari evangelizes.
He doesn't. He definitely doesn't. Also, that quote is total fucking bullshit. Oh, if they don't believe in God, they'll believe in anything. Like, it's the fucking philosophical equivalent of like, oh, if we let gay people get married, they'll be marrying dogs next. Like, no, you fucking absurdist little prick. Jesus.
I interviewed Harari several times before my own exile from Babylon, and he was actually very nice. And it was many years later that it was explained to me that Harari is the World Economic Forum's founder and slobbering Santa Claus of the New Order, Klaus Schwab's go-to intellectual.
Aha.
What can we infer from that? It was a professional in-person encounter with Harari that helped me to understand the potentially deadly intent of the sterile and friendly-seeming globalist system that in one way or another deploys all public figures to amplify various aspects of its ideology. Harari invites you to submit to the inevitability of a centralized and sanitized new world order, to comfortably depend on it. It's going to happen, it's inert and it's in motion, so just let it consume you like invading olfactory water as you snugly concede to drowning.
Well, that sounds pleasant. Just blatant bullshit there, because also Yuval Noah Harari didn't found the WEF. Klaus Schwab did. Whether that was just like a badly phrased sentence, or he genuinely believes that Yuval Noah Harari does, because it was founded back in the 70s. I'm pretty sure that dude would have been like a child at that point. Just now we're getting to like some of the kind of globalist hits, aren't we? We're approaching the territory of like, all right, let's get some dog whistles going, everybody.
This kindly, friendly, inevitable, Kafkaesque globalist system wants total control, which is not possible if you have a significant number of people who know that the highest possible authority is God and that we, all of us, are his. They must deny the existence of God and normalize individual authority. This can be brilliantly masked as individual human rights, but becomes in practice ubiquitous self-centeredness. Everyone independently worshipping themselves, maybe their maleness or femaleness or blackness or whiteness. The system doesn't care as long as your God and yourself are one. When I understood that this is also what Satan wants, I saw that the Christian perspective is a bulwark and shield against evil. And that is why it's denigrated and denied.
Satan wants human rights? Is that what I just heard? Satan, big fan of human rights. Loves it. Loves protections for all. Does Satan, regardless of their personal philosophies. Okay. And so Christianity is the bulwark against again, just say that word normally, bulwark, against the satanic system of protecting people. In any case, that's enough of that shit. For now. That was I cut some of it out. That wasn't the full thing, but that was our 1 of 5. I'm gonna go insane. I already feel like between that book and the intense heat in this room, I feel like I have gone fucking round the bend throughout the course of the last couple of hours. Oh, this is gonna be bad. This is so much worse than the bookie book. This is so much worse. I think Russell reading it doesn't help. Like, that definitely made it worse for me. But just the writing of it, all of it. Because the thing about the bookie book, it still had to get past an editor. It still had to at least meet some standard. And don't get me wrong, it was still awful. But this is through Skyhorse Publishing, baby. This is through Tucker Carlson Books. They don't give a fuck. Like fucking Rand Paul's book is published through that, and at least a third of it was just fucking testimony from Congress of it, just him trying to tell off Fauci. You're like, all right, who gives a shit? I think RFK Jr. pulled the same trick with his book as well, actually, which is also through Skyhorse. Oh dear, that was deeply unpleasant, but again, instructive. Right? It's instructive as to the way this man thinks, which is very much everything is satanic. Everything is satanic. Everyone needs to be Christian. Those are the only answers. There is nothing else. There is nothing else. Anything that's bad is Satan. Anything that's good is Jesus. There you go. I'll tell you what, it sounds a lot easier, doesn't it? Like, I see the appeal. That's a much simpler way to have to deal with everything. Oh, boy. Anyway, if anyone wants to support the show, head to patreon.com/onbrand, please. I would love it if you would. And that's where the majority of the rest of this book is going to be. I'll still put out some previews and stuff on the feed, but... woo! Yeah, if you want some more of this shit, hopefully I've made it somewhat more palatable for everyone, but ugh, that's a slog. It's gonna be rough to get through this. I'm not gonna lie. I may end up going fully insane by the end of it. Anyway, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled fucking content soon, and hopefully Russell will bother with the news at some point, because I don't know if you know, but there's kind of a lot happening in the UK at the moment, and he's just not talking about any of it. So fingers crossed. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other. Thank you very much. I do love you. Bye.
How do you feel about past you at this point?
I don't even recognise that idiot anymore, or the stuff that he stood for.
All right. I'm going to finish now because I'm hungry and I want to eat something. All right, bye.